Welcome to La Taverna Friuli podcast, the definitive podcast on the wines of Friuli, Venezia Giulia. I'm your host, Wayne Young. Join me here each week for casual conversations with wine people and other characters from this undiscovered region of Friuli, Venezia Giulia in northeast Italy. Welcome back, Friuli wine friends, to La Taverna. Your friend Wayne Young here, and this week, Francesco Scalettaris. Write that name down. You're going to need it later on. Francesco is a dear friend. We have been on many adventures together. We've done stand-up comedy together. We've known each other for a long time. And Francesco works with the Consorzio of Colli Orientali. But he has also written a book that I consider extremely important. This book is called Speaking Wine, and it talks about the way people present wine at tastings, at events. I have done many of these throughout my career in wine, sales meetings, when you're in front of a room full of salespeople and you're trying to present your wine. And man, oh man, I wish I had this book back then. It's a great book. It's a manual that everybody should read, because we're all out there, especially you producers, we're all out there talking about wine. And we can do it better. We can make wine more interesting. We can make wine presentations more fun. We can make wine presentations more engaging. And this is the book that will tell you how to do it. With this podcast, you will see that Francesco and I definitely have some fun together, making some fun of each other, kidding with each other. But yeah, it's all in good fun. And I really enjoyed spending an hour with my dear friend, Francesco Scalettaris. Follow him on Instagram at Francesco Scalettaris with an S final. And we'll talk more about that at the end of the podcast. But I want to get into this really useful podcast, really fun, really relaxed podcast with my dear friend, Francesco Scalettaris, and we are talking about speaking wine.
You've asked me so many times, every time my answer is no. No, but anyway. I'm going to start the podcast by saying, let me see if I got this right, because I read your book. And so I'm going to, instead of saying, okay, we're here with Francesco Scalettaris, I'm going to say, by the end of this podcast, you are going to be a better public speaker. How's that for an intro?
Very good.
Very good. You like that?
Yeah.
That's coming from you.
Wine, maybe a wine public speaker.
A wine public speaker. Okay. So anyway, thank you, Francesco, for being here and talking about your book. I'm really excited for you, and I'm really excited that you let me read your book before it's ever been published. So thanks very much.
Well, it was a very, very cheap revision from you. I mean, I didn't want to pay anybody, so
I think it cost you a 1 beer or 2 beers.
Yeah, quite cheap.
Yeah, well, I'm cheap. Yeah, everybody knows that I'm easy and cheap. But anyway, so you and I have known each other for a long time. We've done, trips to France together. We've done tastings and dinners and everything together. And I always knew that you sort of had this skill for public speaking. But where did you get the inspiration, and when and where did you get the inspiration to write a book about this type of thing?
Whoa, that's a good question. Yeah. First thing is that I always love to speak in front of public. I mean, looking at people that stare at you and that are waiting for you to either make them laugh or, learn something from you or feel good in that moment where you're speaking, that feeling you get, that responsibility you have, that's something that really, really makes me feel good, gives me like really kind of like an adrenaline, but like kind of like a very positive. It makes me happy. And I always had that even when I was like much, much younger and I did like, drama courses and things like that. And it was really something nice. So I tried then I got passionate about wine, and I try to, apply those, everything I learned so far about public speaking into wine, and kind of like focus on how to talk about wine better. Because attending many, and as I'm sure you do, and all the speakers probably, all the listeners probably have as well, attended many tastings, master classes, and all that. I mean, I'm sure, 100% sure that we all thought at some point, okay, the wine is good. The speaker knows a lot, but this is just so boring. I cannot wait for this to end, or let me go on, just taste all the wines, and then I want to go. I don't want to listen to this guy no more.
Okay.
And then, of course, kills the wine. I mean, you can have the best wines in front of you, but if you got someone which is very boring, which has an aggressive attitude, or who is feeling like his speeches are full of like feeling words, like kind of like that, it's just like so annoying.
Problem.
So annoying, yeah. Anyway,
yeah. And so your book is basically a manual for people who in the wine business, whether they could be producers, they could be wholesalers, they could be salespeople, in order for them to sort of give a presentation about wine to a group of people that makes their presentation more sort of magnetic, more attractive, right?
Exactly, yeah. Everybody should, as you said, there was like a huge compliment that you did. You told me it's like that anybody who is in the wine business should read your book.
And I stand by that. I totally stand by that.
Thank you so much. Well, I think that just about everybody. Not because I know secrets that no one else does, but just because I think that having like reading something like that probably will make you start thinking about the how you deliver your speeches, your masterclass, or how you talk about wine.
Correct.
And because we concentrate so much about what, and we always forget about why we do it, but that's another topic.
And the how we do it.
And the how, how that always comes second after the what, and that makes no sense at all, because how is way more important than what. You can say the most interesting thing about a terroir in a very boring, literal way with no emotions, no storytelling behind, and it will we'll just kill it. And on the other way, you can say very, very, very boring stuff, but with a lot of enthusiasm and putting jokes in it, or having a lot of energy while you do that, and that's gonna emerge.
Okay. It's kind of like the idea of, there's no such thing as a bad subject or a boring subject. It's how it's presented, right? Everybody complains about, like, when I was in school, everybody complained about history or math. Whereas sometimes you had that one teacher who was able to bring the subject alive just by the way they presented it. So it wasn't just like a list of dates that you needed to memorize or a list of formulas you needed to memorize. It sort of brought you in to that. What's sort of your training for this? You mentioned that you said that you took drama classes.
Yeah.
And what other things did you do to sort of prepare yourself to make yourself a better public speaker?
Well, actually, I would say two things. The first one is trying to, every time I speak in public, I try to focus, especially if I know very, very well what I'm talking about. So I don't really have to concentrate so much about the what, and I can focus more on the how. Every time I do that, I try to pay attention to how I'm speaking, how my body's moving, how the public is reacting to what I say. So really learn by doing kind of thing.
Okay.
And this is something I see that not a lot of people, unfortunately, do. They just do what they did the previous time. But if I hold a masterclass, an event, whatever, a tasting, and I feel that I'm doing exactly as I did the previous one, I'm not happy. It's gotta be better. It's gotta be better. You always gotta put something like, the ending or the beginning, or how I talk, how I engage with the audience, all these kind of things. If they just kind of like the one that I did the previous time, I'm not happy. The second thing that helped me so much is looking at hours and hours of TEDx videos.
Okay.
And not just TEDx, but TEDx is a really, really great source for videos. And so where I do not care so much about what they say again, but how they say, and just trying to see like why I get passionate about some topic and see what is they do that they make me or whoever passionate about it. Just like, and of course, it's not the topic again, but it's how they deliver, so how they do their what's their body language like, what's their non-verbal communication, paraverbal communication, so how to use their voice. And also the TEDx is really interesting because most of the time they're not professional speakers, so they're just people who are very savvy, who know a lot about their topic, but are kind of scared, which I guess it's okay to be scared in a theater, like in front of cameras, in front of hundreds and hundreds of people.
I would be, yeah, for sure.
No, that would excite me a lot. It's just like my dream to be a TEDx speaker. But anyways.
Me too, actually. I have to agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always wanted to do that.
So, yeah, and they don't know really. So that it's really, really interesting to learn what not to do rather than what to do. So watching this is like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, yeah, no, he's being very, very bad at, saying this thing. I would have said that. I would have put a pause there. I would have I would have used a different tone.
So you're watching these TEDx talks and sort of critiquing them,
yes,
and saying, oh, okay, I like the way they did that, but I don't really like that.
And most of the time it's, I don't like that. I don't like, yeah, no, that doesn't work. I would have done it better.
I would say that because I'm sort of a visual and audio learner, that would be a really big resource for me. And I enjoy watching TED Talks. So that for me would be a really, really good sort of jumping off point, saying, what are the things that I like about the way this person speaks and how can I incorporate it, rather than maybe just sort of having a mental framework for it. But you give some really, really good practical advice in your book, which is called Speaking Wine, right? Okay. And so what other, in the book, because I read your book, you mentioned also Toastmasters. Would you recommend that to people who want to do public speaking?
Yeah, unfortunately, we live in a region where wine is amazing, but there's no Toastmaster Club Association.
Okay. There's an opportunity for you.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, they could be, but I thought about it, but whatever. Anyways, yeah, the Toastmaster is really, really like this association that was born, of course, in the States in the 60s, I guess. So then they really concentrate on the public speaking for leadership, because everything starts from one big quote that there's not great leader who's not a great public speaker. So if you think all the great leaders, even the very, very bad ones, were or are great public speakers.
True.
You cannot become a great leader if you cannot manage the public speaking well.
That's true. Ronald Reagan is the first thing that comes to mind. The great communicator, he was called.
Yeah, there you go. There's no, unless those kings they got elected just because they're the son of the previous one. But if you become a leader, like a great leader, you gotta really
have to be a great
you gotta
speaker.
Yeah. So the Toastmaster, and then it's all about public speaking for leadership, and they do a lot of exercises like impromptu, during where they gather once a week. Usually the clubs do, and there's like the counter, so a guy who's responsible for counting all
your
those
ahs and
feelings,
ums. Yeah. Oh boy,
all those feeling words. And it's like at the end of the night, just like, so you during your speech, you said like, I don't know, 25 ahs and 12.
That would be on the low end, yeah.
And that's so since there's someone that really listening just for those literate, you really concentrate hard on that.
Interesting. Could that be a mental tactic to give yourself, that you sort of say to yourself, there's somebody here in the room who's counting all my ums and ahs?
If you can believe it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Or of course, at the end, I mean, you know that there's nobody. But I mean, an exercise is that, because like you read the book, right, and asked for, a revision and about the English, of course, but also about the topics and the content. So you asked me for an exercise, right, to get rid of your,
exactly.
And all that.
There was
another one. Yeah, there was another one you just told me that you use a lot, which was
Sort of.
sort of. Okay,
Sort of.
yeah, kind of,
Yeah.
sort of,
Kind of,
yeah,
sort of more than anything. Because I edit my own podcast and I hear my own sort of. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, I think the best exercise is to record yourself. I mean, your podcast is great already, but even you can record and send yourself a WhatsApp message, audio message, and talking about a topic you know quite well.
Okay.
For like 2 minutes, and then listen to it and count all the R's that you said. And then redo it again, saying the same exact topics, but focusing really, really hard on not doing any R's. And at the beginning, it's going to feel really, really weird because you're going to feel that like kind of like you're lacking, kind of like the lacking of oxygen while you speak. But it's just a matter of getting used to, getting your brain used to silences, to pauses.
Okay.
To not having to have, I don't know if that makes sense, but not having to have always a constant stimulation
And stream of words.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's got to be one of the biggest fears we all have in public speaking, is to stop.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be afraid of that.
There's a big chapter just about pauses and the importance of pauses. See, it's like, and it's, what I say here is that pauses underline the words, and they're way more important than the words themselves.
It's true.
If you just speak without pauses, you lose your audience in 2 seconds. And instead you can say even the most boring things, and you just put one little pause, just as I did, and it sparkles the curiosity, right? Because it's kind of like a bias we have that we always wanted to complete, fulfill, come to an end. And that's what all the, for example, Netflix series are about. The very end of the episode, usually there's something that like a hook that keeps you hanging onto the next one.
So you binge watch.
Binge watch. And that's because we feel the urge to always close the circle of whatever we're doing. So if I put a pause here like that, you're just like, yeah, come on, tell me.
Yeah.
How does this end?
This innate sort of curiosity that gets turned on, and you're sort of like, well, wait, why did you stop? What's something must be really important that's coming up.
Exactly.
How about the tone of the voice, raising and lowering the tone of the voice? Is it okay to whisper every once in a while?
It's absolutely okay, especially if you have to have a very different tone of the voice throughout your speech. And the more you change it, the more interesting it gets, but it cannot be like a roller coaster where you are so low and then you start talking very high. It's like, too boring and too many inputs. So it just doesn't work. But especially if you say something funny, that could be a really good, a good moment to lower your voice and like kind of like whisper a joke.
Okay.
Or maybe if usually I do this when I talk about something that a winemaker told me, kind of like a secret, which of course is not a secret, but it's like, I kind of like lower my voice. But make sure that you do that just when you using a microphone. Of course, otherwise it just people in the back of the room.
They can't hear you.
Like,
obviously. Yeah.
It's like, what did he say?
Yeah.
I know. So that's why
it's kind of like you're sharing inside information. Exactly. Like a little secret.
Exactly.
So, and it gives it that much more power.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives, again, it sparkles curiosity, and that's something absolutely, you have to do. Even if it's not so important, if it's not such a secret, but still lowering the tone of your voice makes it more, okay, he's telling me something that's very, very important.
Or personal.
Or personal,
right.
Again.
Yeah. How do you, Francesco Scalettaris, how do you prepare for a presentation? What are the sort of the steps that you go through to prepare when you do? Because I've seen you do presentations and they're always fantastic. So what is sort of your not necessarily your creative process, but your preparatory process when you want to get up in front of the people and now you know you have to speak?
Well, there's many things I do. For example, tomorrow I got a tasting in Cividale, and what I always do, which is what I did just today, is make sure I learn by heart the beginning, the very, very beginning of my speech and the very, very end. Everything in between, I will just, I will have a lot of information about the wines I'm presenting tomorrow and so forth, the topics I want to talk about, but I want to, run free. I'm not gonna, I don't want to I want to limit myself too much into already boxes. But what I definitely need to do, must do every time, is to learn my very, very beginning by heart and the end, because that's what people remember the most. The beginning is the most important part of your speech, because that's where you get your credibility from the public. You get it's just like people will start thinking, oh, okay, this hour and a half that we're gonna be together is gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting. Okay, I spend my money in a good way. Okay, this guy is good. And that's, of course, very, 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 very quick thoughts that the audience will have. But that will affect at least the first 10, 15 minutes. Then, of course, you got to keep on, on fueling that energy and that positivity and that trust that they have towards you. And then, of course, the end, because that's going to be the very, very, very last thing you say, and that's what they're gonna stand up, leave the room, whatever, and then they're gonna remember that. Right. Even like when we have a nice, very, very nice and long dinner, we usually tend to remember very well what we had at the very, very beginning of the meal and the very, very, very end. That's that's quite typical of mankind, to remember the beginning and the end of lists, for example.
Okay.
So you gotta care so much for that. So answering your question, that's what I do.
So you prepare your beginning and your end, and you have that down pat.
Yes.
Okay. And then everything in the middle, you can sort of improvise with, obviously, with your outline.
Yeah.
Slides or no slides?
Yes, I tend to have slides, but in quite a different way than, and this is also something I talk about in the book, how to make like good slides. What I do usually in the slides is I try to write like 5, 6 words maximum, and then big images, pictures. I just get goosebumps when I see those slides full of text, and even worse when the speaker reads the text from the slides. Even worse, turning his back to the audience in order to read the slides. I would just like to throw them, I don't know, the glass full of red wine I got in front of me. It's just like, no.
I am guilty of that.
Never, ever should
turn your back.
That's something you should never, ever do. No matter what. It's better not to read, follow, kind of like ignore the slide if you cannot not turn your back towards the.
Okay. Better just forget the slide altogether.
Just forget the slides altogether. Yeah.
Wow.
That's much, much worse to turn your back to.
Yeah, I've seen that so many times where guys will just have like a PowerPoint presentation and literally what's coming out of their mouth is the words that are on the slide. And it's just like, oh man.
But because that tells you what about the speaker?
They don't know anything.
There you go.
They don't know. They're literally just reading what they have in front of them, and they don't really understand the subject at all. So
the audience, what will the audience think? Well, just like, okay, wasting my money to hear someone reading out loud something I could have done myself, and they start questioning. They start, thinking about something that you absolutely do not want them to think about.
Right.
They gotta focus on what you're saying and on yourself.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about like some of the biggest mistakes that people make. That's one of them, obviously, right?
There's
reading
many
from their slides. The other one that you mentioned in the book was, which I think is really hard for a lot of people, is not starting with good evening and not finishing with good night. Tell me about that. How do you avoid those mistakes?
Well, the obvious answer to this would be you just don't do it. So
okay, just don't do it.
Just don't do it. I mean,
don't get up in front of a bunch of people and go, good evening.
No, I mean, yeah, the good evening you can of course say good evening. It's polite, so you should say, but not the very, very beginning. The very, very first thing that must come out of your mouth is your beginning. So a date, a quote from someone, a joke, whatever, but not good evening. My name is Wayne, Francesco, whatever, and we're gonna do this, and that. No, the very, very first thing is like a quote, a sentence. Then you do a long pause. You watch your public. That you're gonna see them. They're a bit confused but interested. You see curiosity in their eyes because they were not expecting that you would start off like that. And then you say, "Welcome everybody. Good evening. Whatever. My name. Blah 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 blah." Same with the ending. So just like you gotta thank your public, which again here we can talk about it because like I'm not really happy to thank the public to say thank you to them because they should actually say thank you to you, right?
Oh,
because
you're the one who's providing the entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they paid, so I mean, it's kind of like, yes, we both thank each other, and that's okay. But the very, very, very last word that comes out of your mouth cannot be "thank you, you've been great," which is something I always do. I mean, I get like my ending is usually questions. Okay, does anybody got question? Who's got question? Much better. Then you answer the question. There's a whole way to answer the questions from the public. It's not just like answering them, but there's a technique which I talk about in the book. And then after that, you say thank you. I usually always say, "You have been greatest public ever. You've been so curious," and just like some compliments, which is even if it's not true, but they will just accept it and will be happy to know that. And then then I say thank you, blah blah blah. See you next time, blah 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 blah. But before leaving, let me say this final thing. And I usually try to either connect with what I said at the very beginning. Or
So full circle.
Yeah, close the circle. And then after that, after the last word of my quote, sentence, joke, date, whatever it is, that's it. The microphone is turned off. The music starts back on, and that's it. There's no goodbye. There's no good night. There's no safe get back, safe home, whatever. No, nothing.
So many times the last slide in the presentation is "thank you."
Thank you, which is just like, thank you for what? Thank you.
Thank you for what?
Yeah. Thank you for what? It's like, thank you, like, because they did a pleasure to you, listening to you. Is that what you're thanking them for? It's like, wow, that doesn't make sense.
Thank you for your attention.
Well, is that something you gotta thank them for?
I don't know.
Is that a pleasure that they did to you to pay you attention? Wow.
Kind of, yeah, but still,
no.
I like the idea that you're doing that before the end, because so many times we sort of finish up and go, "Okay, do you have any questions?" Right? But you're saying, do the questions.
Yes.
You've been the best audience ever, and then hit them with that finale, and then shut it down.
That's exactly
and then you're
how
done.
it's supposed
and
to be.
People will go, "Wow."
Yeah, and they will also, what they will go, they're gonna be wanting more. If you stop like that, you're gonna kind of like be hanging on. Oh, is that how he's close? Is that it? That's it? That's what you want them to feel, kind of like a little bit. How can I say this? A little bit, uneasy with their feelings of just like, is it like that? Because like I was done? Yeah, we done? Yeah. It was like, no, okay, all right, yeah. You absolutely do not want a fade out, like a slow fade out. It's like, okay, so nobody's got question. Well, I guess that's it. And well, I see you next time. You've been great. Thank you so much. And if you're not even finished saying this,
and everybody's already gone.
Yeah, already gone.
Yeah.
Right, and it's it.
They're already getting up. They're already dumping their glasses.
Yeah.
Okay.
You absolutely don't want that, because that's what they're going to remember. Just going to walk out having that feeling that, yeah.
What about some of the more, we talk about beginning, and what are some of the other really either big mistakes or most overlooked aspects about public speaking? What are some other big ones that for you are really important?
A huge mistake that I see is people speaking sitting on a chair.
Okay.
Even
gotta
worse,
stand up.
Yeah. To me, 100% of the public speaking is done standing up. There's no exception to that.
No exception.
No exception.
Unless it's your
I mean, there is a little small exception.
limitation, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. There's actually one very small exception, which we can talk about if you want. But other than that, no, 100% of the time that you gotta do public speaking is standing up. Actually, there's two exceptions, but so this is the first huge mistake. But that's because you lose a lot of your power if you sit down.
Okay.
Right? Especially if you got if you're sitting behind a table and you got glasses in front of you and you got maybe bottles in front of you, that's
You're
really
hidden.
a barrier. Yeah, you're hidden, and you gotta really throw in a lot of energy in order to reach all the people, especially those back in the end of the room. So you always gotta stand. Also, because you can use your body much better, right? You can use your whole body. Like, I don't know, if you want to talk about this topic here, so you would move on the stage to the right, and then you're gonna talk about another topic, and you do some steps on the left, right? So people also visually can remember the two different topics. Like, this winery produces both sparkling wines, and you talk about them staying on the right part of the stage, but also they're really great at making red wines. And then you go left and you move left. So
you've moved into a different realm, just like the talk has moved into a different. Okay.
So
that's really interesting.
that's what I.
So positioning is important too. Don't just stand in the middle of the stage and talk.
And also something you can do if you're feeling that you're losing your the attention, is that you can that's something a lot of people don't do, to jump off the stage if you got a stage or whatever, but just start walking through the crowd, right? Through, like, in the middle, from the back. That's something absolutely unexpected. And that will make the whole public, be silent and attentive and more curious, because they seeing something that breaks the pattern that they used to.
Okay.
And that's something you absolutely want to remember to do. Like, if you see that the tension is slowing down, you got to break the pattern. So you got to change your tone of your voice. You got to say a joke. You got to do like a sound, take out a prop, or walk into the crowd, or do whatever breaks the pattern and it creates curiosity.
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, and this sort of relates to what you're saying about walking out into the crowd, sometimes you get like a little pocket of chatty people who are like chatting amongst themselves. Is that a good way of sort of like settling them down? Yeah.
As soon as you get close to them, they will just shut up.
Shut up. Really? It's just a natural thing to do.
Yes, and you will tell them, okay, I notice you guys have been chatting. This is annoying. So I'm coming here. I'm not telling you anything. We're not at school.
So you're literally not saying anything to them. You're just approaching them.
Approaching. Maybe you give them a look, and while talking, or if you want to make it even more intense, you can stop for like a couple seconds. Just pause, look at them. Okay, and then
keep going.
And that's way more powerful than sorry guys, can you please? Sorry, it was like, or shh, or something like that, which is like absolutely unacceptable.
Is this is what I do, and often I'm in a space where I can't move around that much, unfortunately. But what I'll do is I'll sort of stop and I'll say, hey, do you guys have a question? Is there something you guys want to ask?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like you're drawing attention to them, and they'll go, no. And then they'll get quiet.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna make them feel
a little bit on the spot.
Okay. Which is something you might want to do. I mean, that's very powerful to make them stop, because they know from that moment on, them and all the others, that if they chat, if they're disturbing, they will, then the spotlight will turn on them. So they don't want to do that. Which is, I mean, yeah, but it's kind of like saying, it's not a very gentle way to do it, I guess. It's very powerful. Not sure it's
a little bit accusatory.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Which in some cases you might want to do. Like, for example, if someone, has a cell phone that starts ringing, or even worse, it happened probably, I don't know if it happened ever to you, but people answering their cell phones during a tasting. I don't know if have you ever happened to you?
Yeah, maybe.
She's like, yeah, and I remember
they're on the phone.
Yeah, I remember this woman saying, "Is like, yeah, no, sorry, I cannot answer right now." And I was like, what you just did?
Why didn't you just not answer? Silence the
That doesn't make
phone.
no sense. So what I usually do is if you ignore that, it tells everybody, okay, that's okay. People can just, answer the phones. And,
so you should do something.
You definitely should do. What I usually do, which is like one of the things that freaks me out the most, people having their cell phones or, answering their cell phone, even worse, is I just stop talking. Even like in the middle of the,
wow.
Like that. And just as I did.
Just
right?
dead silence.
Yeah. But like it has to be, and I try to do it not at the end of a sentence,
Like
right?
mid-sentence.
Mid-sentence. It must be mid-sentence. Otherwise, it's not fully effective. So it's like kind of like you're speaking, you're presenting this wine, and you stop and you look at that. You look at that person, and that's really powerful. Again, not very gentle, not very nice, but very, very powerful.
Right.
And it must come at the end of the sentence because, again, that breaks the pattern. Otherwise, if it's just like at the end of the sentence, people maybe, unless it's a very, very long pause, but people who are not really paying attention, especially if you're on the phone, you won't really notice that. But if you just like abruptly stop, then they will feel it.
Wow. Okay. I wouldn't want to be the person at your tasting who answered my cell phone.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
of course I wouldn't do that, but still, but I never thought about doing it. Just like sort of like stop.
Yeah. So and look at them.
And
you gotta
look
at them.
You have to look at them. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But anytime, I mean, like the main rule about pauses is that all the pauses must come with looking at the people you got in front.
Okay.
There's no pause looking down at your feet or looking out the window, or unless it's for some like theatrical, or drama moment you want to create. But if all the pauses to be really, really effective and powerful,
you should be scanning the audience. You should be looking at people in the eyes while you're silent.
Exactly.
Okay. What about nerves? There's the old thing about like, if you're nervous about public speaking, because we're all nervous about public speaking, just imagine everybody in their underwear. Does that work?
That's so stupid.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, everybody's nervous. I'm nervous as well. I mean, probably less than some years ago, but still. And if I'm not nervous at all, I kind of feel scared because it's like, okay, I'm telling myself, oh no, Francesco, you're not. No, come on. You gotta have that sparkle, that energy, that fear. Otherwise, you won't perform well. If you're just too relaxed, you're just gonna go out there. You're gonna be like soft and just not gonna work. So.
Okay.
Everybody's scared. Public speaking is like the second most common fear in the world after death, of course. So it's absolutely normal to do that.
I thought number one was spiders, but anyway, you can go.
Well, no, I guess it's worse. Anyways,
everybody's terrified of public speaking.
Terrified, and there's a reason why, biological, genetical reason why we're so scared of public speaking. But it's kind of like a muscles, right? At the very beginning, if you start using and working out hard, they will hurt, right? But then the more you work out, the less they will hurt, and then on and on and on. There's no really shortcut. You gotta just speak in public and think about the fact that you're doing public speaking. I mean, for me, it works well, not just to stay away with the mind or go somewhere else and let the autopilot go on. I really want to feel the moment. And that's what helps me, overcoming the fear, which is, for me, in my case, I never really had a big fear of public speaking. But what I hear a lot from my students, public speaking students, is that, yeah, but Francesco, you were born like that. Or, yeah, I'm not just that kind of guy. That just everybody, 100% of the people can become great public speakers. And if you can speak, you can be a great public speaker. That's it. There's no, you were born like that or whatever.
Well, like everything else, it's about practice, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you want to tell me, like you gotta compete in the Olympics for curling, I'd say, yeah, no, you know what? Yeah, maybe I can practice, but still, I won't be an Olympic athlete. But public speaking, yeah, you can definitely become a great public speaker.
And your book is a great way to sort of improve that. Any other sort of exercise, maybe breathing exercises to sort of reduce your anxiety before you get on stage or before you get in front of a group of people?
Yeah, that's of course very helpful as well, to like long deep breaths, so you get the most oxygen you can to your brain, and also that relaxes and lowers your heartbeat. So that's a good way of practicing or reducing your public speaking fear. But what I think the most is accept it. It's not try to avoid it, not try to pretend it's not there. Just accept it as an absolutely normal thing to feel. It's okay to feel. Oh, it's okay. I'm scared. I'm very scared to jump on stage. Right now gonna call me up, and I feel my heart rushing, and I'm scared, and that's okay. You just gotta be. I mean, it's okay to be scared, and once you accept that, once you say like, yeah, okay, that's okay. You just like like all its power kind of like collapses and slowly gets lower and lower, and eventually you cannot wait.
Yeah.
Be on stage.
So you're saying actually sort of use the energy of the nervousness and channel that into your.
Yeah.
Is practicing your presentation a good way also to limit nervousness? I know that's sort of what I do. Is I'm always more nervous if I'm less practiced, less prepared. So is preparation part of limiting the nervousness?
It really depends. So I think everybody's got their own way of doing that. Me personally, if I know that I gotta, let's say, know 100% of for my tasting, for the wine tasting that I have tomorrow, I will stop, which probably doesn't really make sense, but I stop at rehearsing when I know I know around 80, maybe 85%.
Okay.
So I always leave some gap of something that I'm not fully aware of, or like a topic I know I hope it won't come out, because I need that little fear. I need to have that boost that will of like that fear of not knowing everything, and that's gonna help me perform better.
Okay.
But that's just I understand that somebody which is like probably is more like, yeah, I gotta know everything.
Is there a risk of over preparing?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I think so. Yeah.
What happens when you over prepare?
Well, I guess that when you over prepare, you already designing your mind or forecasting what's your whole speech is gonna be like for like an hour and a half. But every time that I did that, I always then realized that it was like what happened the day after or whatever it wasn't it absolutely, or wasn't at least exactly how I rehearsed it, and then really screws up your routine, right? Your like the order of the topics you want to talk about, for example, right? So that's why I don't wanna, as I said at the very beginning of the podcast, I want to learn the beginning by heart, the end, and then in between I will just manage my way through it and keep it shorter or longer. But I don't want to know that I gotta talk about A, B, C, D. Absolutely, and I know these 4 elements by heart. Otherwise, I would just like realize that maybe I talk about A, B, C, and since there's so many questions or whatever, or maybe the microphone wasn't working, so I lost time for that, and then I gotta really rush into the D topic and just talk about it for like 2 minutes while it deserved way more than that. So I try.
So over preparing almost sort of like sets you up to not be flexible when improvisti.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Okay. So you have to be, if you're overly rehearsed, it might sound a little bit dry. It might sound a little bit memorized.
Probably, yeah.
Robotic.
Yeah, given that it's almost impossible to memorize like a tasting usually lasts for an hour and a half.
Okay.
And memorizing from A to Z for an hour and a half, the whole speech, I guess
it's really hard.
It's really, really hard. So probably it's not really what you want to do anyways.
You also do, and I know this because we do it together, some stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So you really do like getting up in front of people.
I told you, I love that. I really love that.
So and we always talk about this when we do it. You're always like, hey, man, I just love the fucking adrenaline rush.
Yes.
And we're getting out there and getting nervous and going out and doing it. And when you kill it, it's a super good feeling. what's the overlap between stand-up comedy and a wine presentation? Is there an overlap?
Yeah, well, yeah, there is. The first one, as an old saying goes, brevity is levity, which means that if you keep it short, you're gonna make people laugh. If you start explaining your jokes, nobody will laugh, and that's also something that works very, very well in public speaking during like wine presentation for sure. For example, like the ending, as we said, if you just like mumble some words at the end of your last sentence, that's just gonna ruin kind of like you would explain if you would explain a joke, right? So that's, for example, something that I see a lot, people over explaining things. It's like, yeah, okay, you just told me that. I mean, it doesn't add anything. It just actually removes. So keep it short, keep it focused, like really like a laser beam on the topics, and that's it. So that's something that I would see as a similarity or overlapping. And also the irony. So, I mean, I don't see why we cannot use irony during our tastings.
Okay.
I mean, you can.
So don't be too serious.
No, absolutely not. I mean, what I wrote in the book, and that you put a question mark next to it because that kind of like confused you maybe a little bit. It was like that. This thing was that even Bill Gates gets his pizzas delivered.
Okay. Yeah.
which means that even like the top-notch professional wine buyer, at the end of the day, underneath his tie and jacket and shirt, he's a human being, right? With his feelings and with his problems, with his happiness and everything that we all have. So we gotta make sure that we always remember that. And nobody doesn't like to laugh, to be happy, to enjoy the moment. So if we think that people come to our tastings and they are just there and they're just to learn about, about the wine or a specific terroir or how this pignol is made or the refosco, whatever, we're just very, very wrong. You gotta, just as in the stand-up comedy, you gotta pay attention to what makes them laugh and then keep on going on that theme. And same in the tasting. You gotta, if you see that they laugh at some jokes, then you gotta keep on doing them. Of course,
don't do the same joke over and over.
Oh, of course not. And I mean, people are come to watch us to laugh, right? And come to watch us in a wine event to learn about wine. So, well, actually, that's not really the main reason, but like the rational reason is that one. And so you got to give them that, right? But still, there's no, even at a funeral, you can be ironic, right? You can put some irony. You can put some people can laugh, even at one of the saddest moment in one's life. So I don't see why people don't use that. I mean, it's not easy. It's not, as we know, making people laugh is like one of the hardest things.
Yeah. But I mean, I think just, if you make a little joke or you make people smile or even if you laugh at your own comment, I think it just makes things a little bit lighter, makes you a little bit likable, which is, I'm really impressed because, you are like the most unlikable person I've ever met. Yet you manage to be likable on stage. How do you do that? What's your technique? I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. No. But,
no, you're not.
I am totally. You're like most of the likable person I've ever met. But anyway, tell me some of like the best and the worst presentations that you've seen. With obviously no naming names, but give me an idea of like a really, really good presentation that you've seen or a really, really bad and a really, really bad one.
Okay, let's start with the bad one. It was the one you held.
That's why I read your book. That one time that Wayne.
You remember that? It was horrible. No, you're great. You're great.
Thank you. I try.
Yeah, no, you are. Probably the worst was not so long ago, and I was in Milan, and I attended this tasting, and the speaker about wines from Friuli, and the speaker was not from Friuli, and he started his tasting saying, he was like, okay, by raising your hand, who's from Friuli here? Mm-hmm. It's like, nobody raised his hand, right? So I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, yeah. So that meant that he was scared that someone in the public was from Friuli, so they would know more than him.
Oh,
and
shit.
that's what really, really the very, very beginning. And what everybody thought, at least I did, but I'm sure a lot of people thought, was like, okay, that's okay. So you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
If you're scared of confrontation, you don't know what you're talking about. You're already lost all your credibility. There's no way.
Whether it's conscious or subconscious,
Yes,
you've already put yourself in a bad position.
Yes, horrible, very, 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 very bad.
What about was the rest of his presentation halfway
No, it was
decent?
awful.
It was
but
terrible.
I mean, yeah, it was terrible. But I mean, I wouldn't expect anything better from that. Someone starting like that. So
Okay.
that's just and a lot of people a big mistake again, a huge mistake, probably the biggest mistake that people make when they do the tastings is that, okay, I'm gonna do it like this because it's always been like that, right? So
okay.
we're used to do it, yeah, but people do it like this. Who cares? Yeah, no, but usually here we don't. I heard that many times. Yeah, no, usually here we just we don't stand up while we speak. It's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I do stand up.
Okay.
I don't care. I don't care about you guys. You're just gonna, what's gonna happen. And I once told them, it was like in Italy. It was just like, but you know what's gonna happen? If I be the only one standing up, I'm gonna be the only one that the public will remember. If you all the other co-speakers with me will just speak and stand and sit, sorry, you will just be forgotten because they will. I really want
You'll
to break
be one
the
of those
pattern.
other seated
just
guys.
and I'm sorry, but I don't want to be forgotten. I don't want to be unknown. I'm there and I want to show off. So I'm gonna be standing up. And at my turn, just gonna grab the mic, get off, walk in front of the stage, and speak. And it's like, I don't care if you're not gonna do that. So that's a very good one.
I mean, apart from the ones I've done, which have always been spectacular. But yeah, other than that,
yeah, no, this might sound a little bit cheesy, but the last one that you did at Friuli Doc was really good. The one where you pair
wine and songs.
Wine and
yeah,
songs.
but now you're just buttering me up. Now you're just making me feel good.
No, but it was because it was
What was it about that you got? Because I not only got a big compliment from you, but also from Matteo.
Yeah.
And that made me feel super good. So what was it about that you guys liked so much?
First of all, the fact that you were absolutely great at mixing two topics, and which is something that a lot of people do now, like mixing wine and other things. But usually it's just like two things that like a flip flop and a shoe that just
they don't go together.
I mean, you can walk with them, but just like feels weird, right? So. And you were absolutely great in doing that. So that means you rehearsed and you studied a lot before your presentation, and also that you kept it very easygoing, which is what you needed to do because it was the end of the day, was the last tasting of the Sunday.
Right.
So people were probably already a little bit tired. So you had to keep it
drunk.
A little bit drunk. Yeah. Well, yeah, two were very drunk. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you kept it, you probably did that on purpose, but you didn't kept it very technical. It was just like about, and let's enjoy the wine, let's enjoy the music, let's see. And something you were doing very, very well. Also, I clearly remember it. I know this was like, that's really good. That you were kind of like, not, I wouldn't say dancing to the music, but you were kind of like moving, right? And feeling showing that you were feeling the rhythm of the play, that the songs you would play along with the wines. And that's kind of like an actor would do on stage, right? If you had stayed just like still or maybe in a corner, just, waiting for the people to listen to the song and then come back on stage, it's like, what do you think? The fact that you were the moment, the spotlight was on you on that moment, of course, because you were the speaker. And that fact that you were moving and using your body with no shame whatsoever in dancing in front of 20 plus people that were there, that made the people think, okay, he's really confident. He knows what she's doing. He's not scared of using his body, and he's not scared of dancing. He's really more than everything. He's really enjoying what he's doing. And if you can give people the feeling that you are enjoying what you're doing, you speaker, you wine speaker, that you enjoy the wines you're tasting, you enjoy doing public speaking, you enjoy that moment, well, then everything just gonna go downhill.
I was so self-conscious during those moments of music, and I was having a good time, and that's absolutely true. But yeah, because I'm not a dancer. I don't like go to discos and dance in front of people unless I'm really intoxicated. But sort of like moving with the music and doing that in front of a group of people, it was really, really hard for me. I was super
So
self-conscious.
you did that on
about it.
purpose, or it just
It was kind of like just natural, but normally I wouldn't do that in front of people. I would do that alone in my living room while I'm listening to whatever. But I figured I just wanted to sort of show my enthusiasm for it, and I did. It just sort of came naturally. It was totally not choreographed.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just came out as my natural reaction to the music, because all the songs that I picked, I really liked those songs.
So again, if you were sitting behind a table, you wouldn't.
Totally different.
There you go.
Totally different feeling. Wow. So here's I usually do like the domanda del cavolo, but I don't have one for you because they're all. But I did want to ask you a question, which might be a domanda del cavolo. But do you, Francesco, have like a public speaking kryptonite? Like, is there something that trips you up every time? A word, a phrase? Is there something that just for you is kind of like shit? And it's something that you're kind of afraid of either talking about or pronouncing or something, your public speaking kryptonite, anything? Or are you just so confident about it?
Well, at some point when, there's a whole chapter of the book about how to answer the questions that you actually don't know the answers of.
Okay.
So at some point you become confident. And even if you don't know the answers of questions, that happens a lot of time. That you cannot know it all. And that, again, it's absolutely okay not to know everything. Of course, some basic things, then if you don't know them, then it's not good. But if it's like some details like that. So I would say if you asked me that question like probably 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said that, not being able to answer a question from the public, that would be it is something I would be extremely scared of. Right now, I'm not so scared, especially if you feel confident, if you show that you're confident that it is like, I'm not getting freaked out because I don't know the answer to your question. So that probably means that I'm not even supposed to know the answer or in the first place, right? So I would say that. Right now, I'm probably right now is more, but it's something not especially related to me personally, but it's the lights.
With the lighting.
The lighting, sorry, yeah.
Lighting. So how you are lit, literally.
Yes.
Okay.
And how also the people in the room, because the environment of the tasting, where the tasting takes place, what's around us, what the lights are like, the color, the intensity of the lights, that's super important. And that strongly affects my performance and the result of the tasting.
Really?
Yes. I think that's like one of
lights
the most
that are too bright or not bright enough.
Or if the speaker is not lit enough, or if you're kind of like, that's especially for like, also for again, the stand-up comedy, you gotta be like a theater, right? You gotta be the one that's who's lit, not the public. The public, of course, gotta be a little bit be a little bit softer, darker, but you gotta be. You got to be.
Does that same stand-up rule apply to public speaking? Because it's difficult to have a tasting in the dark.
Yeah, I wouldn't say dark, but of course not. You cannot keep the audience in the dark, but you can if that's what the tasting is about. But like a really blind tasting. But
okay.
But what I was saying is that you gotta have the spotlight on you. You gotta be lit. Because as soon as you step out of that light and you start talking in the shade, you disappear.
You disappear.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say that like my biggest fear would be Krypton or whatever. It was like walking onto a stage and realizing it was like, whoa, that's very dark. It was like, I don't like this.
Better too bright than too dark?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. Warm light, cool light. What's I think you mentioned that in the book too, right?
Yeah. I mean, for tasting wine, bright, cold light
Is best.
best. But then it depends on also the quality of the light, not just like the temperature, the color. I would say instead, if I want to do like more storytelling kind of tasting, then in that case, if I can pick a softer, warmer light. I don't know if you remember that tasting that we had when you were working at Bastianich, the one where we paired the Bastianich wines with blues music.
With music, yes.
And at some point, we turned off all the lights. We just kept the candles. And that was a really low, very, very warm light.
Yeah,
and that
very sexy song.
Very sexy. I mean, that's when you try to make out with me. And
yeah, sorry. I was overwhelmed.
I'm kidding. Of course. But yeah, can you imagine that same scene is like that bass player just playing, I forgot his song.
Fire
by
Bruce Springsteen.
And pair with like a really Calabrone, so soft, mellow, big red. And can you imagine that with like a cold, bright light?
Yeah.
It would
completely change the atmosphere.
Completely. It would ruin everything: the music, the wine, speaker, everybody, everything.
Fantastic. So, when is your book going to be available?
Well, the book is actually already is ready. I'm working on the audiobook. So probably, yeah, I would like to have the audiobook, which is probably a good way of.
Are you going to read it yourself?
No, I don't think I'm going to read it. So I either find some American friend who's happy to read it for me.
You don't have any American friends.
I don't, unfortunately. No.
I mean, you don't want to be friends.
I'm not a friend. You don't want to be friends with Americans. So, yeah.
Terrible people.
So no, yeah, I'm working on that, and of course the ebook is gonna come out, but it's gonna be ready in probably like really just a few weeks. So my suggestion to those who are interested in reading it would be to just follow me on Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
Francesco Scalettaris.
Okay.
So Francesco Scalettaris. And I will just, of course, as soon as it comes out, I will post something there and then tell everybody where to get it. And,
Are you going to do a physical printing too?
Yes. Just in English though, for now. I'm working, I got the Italian version, of course, because that's where I started from. But
I was actually going to ask you that because I read you gave me the English version, but there's an Italian version as well?
Well, there is.
You got to do both. Come on. So important for Italian winemakers to understand this stuff.
But if you speak about wine, you gotta know English. So
yeah, that's true. Okay, well that makes sense, right? Much bigger
Italian,
audience.
If you only speak Italian and you want to talk about wine, I think you got bigger problems than caring about your public speaking.
Yeah, but still, you were there too that time when we did Barifosco tasting, and the producers got up and they all started with, "Hi, I am, Paolo, and our winery has 5 hectares," and it's just like every single one of them started that way, and I was just like, why? So I'm really happy that you've written this book, and I really hope that everybody reads it. I will have a copy of my own, signed by you, of course.
Absolutely.
And I will use it all the time because there's a lot of really great practical and useful advice in there that I didn't know, and I will definitely put to use.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man, for being the guest. Yeah, no, it means a lot to me that you come on the show, and nothing but great congratulations on your book. Fantastic job.
So let's close it with thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening. I really do appreciate it. Yeah.
You're doing the greatest.
So how would you finish off then? How would you finish off our talk here in Francesco Scalettaris style?
See, that's something that's really, really hard. That's why I said that you gotta study for the beginning and the end. It's not something you just improvise because it's gotta be strong. So it's something hard.
So you can't just come up with it.
It's hard to do that. I would just close it with the title of the book and the subtitle, which is Speaking Wine. It's not about the wine. It's how you tell it.
Thanks to you and to our guests for joining us on La Taverna. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at La Taverna Podcast and Facebook at La Taverna Friuli. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen. And if you enjoy the podcast, leave us a nice 5-star review on your favorite platform.